It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielsen, Matt Cassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Two Guys and a Goalie. Happy Tuesday. Thank you very much for being here. As always, Two Guys and a Goalie is brought to you by our wonderful partners at CoolBet. Make sure you sign up for an account, and when you do, use the code 2GUYS so they know that we sent you to be locked and loaded, ready to bet on another National Hockey League season, which, of course, isn't that far around the corner. Cass, how was the long weekend, my man? What'd you guys get up to? Take it easy or what?
It was good. I went and watched the absolute drubbing of poor Switzerland at the Hlinka on Sunday. So it was I knew it was going to be bad for the Swiss team when there was 3 shorties in the first period. I was like, ooh, this could get
what was the final?
You know what? I got to double check because they may have scored a bunch more. I ended up leaving a little bit before it was done because I was like, yeah, I've seen enough at this point. But so went out to that, which was good. So it was good. That was most of the weekend.
Gager, what about you, buddy? What'd you get up to?
I went to a monster truck.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was that's an eye opener.
Was Gravedigger there? Gravedigger was always my favorite as a kid. Yeah,
I post
nice.
Gravedigger. That's 40 years of Gravedigger.
Yeah.
Digger, actually. So he's like one of the oldest. I actually put a little thing on Twitter. His little their freestyle, what they do. Like those guys are magicians with those trucks too. It's not just like hit the throttle and hope for the best. Like it's amazing. And I think the girl actually won the overall. So and that was the first champion at Commonwealth for monster truck rally, or I don't think it's called monster truck anymore. It's something else, but really cool. As you know, Dusty, I'm kind of dipping into the motorsports a little bit more than most.
Yeah, you are just a little bit. You have full-blown gearhead over here on Two Guys with a Goalie now. I went to the Riverhawks game when we got back. I got back from CFL stuff Sunday. Went checked out Riverhawks final regular season game. I just love being at the ballpark, man. We went to 5 or 6 games as a family this year. It was awesome. And then went to Super Pets yesterday. Took in a movie on Monday afternoon. And Super Pets, they got The Rock, Kevin Hart, Keanu Reeves, bunch of great names doing voices in that movie. It was a really fun movie.
In it too, isn't it?
Who's that?
What is his
John
face?
Krasinski?
Yeah, Jim
from The Office?
Yeah,
I didn't even recognize that. He must be one of the voices.
In that one too.
Yeah, they were good. Vanessa Bayer from SNL back in the day. She was the pig who got super growing powers. It was fun. I said earlier today, I like going to kids movies, man. We had a good time. It was a fun time. And then I did play the basketball game at West Edmonton Mall and went after the new high score in the little arcade there at the theater. And my arms were killing me when I was done. And I came up shy. It pissed me off. I almost stuck around and went after it again. Sent Tam and the kids home. I'll be home when I'm done. That's what I should have done. So, all right. So we've got our franchise 32 that we're going to get into. And I do say, from my perspective, putting together my list was a lot of fun. And then tabulating all of our lists together was a lot of fun because we each have probably 6 or 7 guys on our list that didn't even make the final list, which does make sense when you got 3 different opinions coming in on things. But we're going to start with 32 to 26 today, and then we'll probably we'll see how long it takes because we could do it in groups of 5 for all of August, or we could do 5 and then 10 and 10. But I think there's a lot to talk about with all these guys. So this is the bottom of the list. Obviously, we're not going to start at the top and ruin the surprise. We'll start at the bottom, which is probably a lot more better for conversations. But before we get to these what is it, 7 guys that we've got here, and we talked about it a little bit on the last episode, but like for me, putting together my list, I had a hard time staying away from a lot of the younger guys that you kind of see on this list right now. I don't know where their full-blown potential is, but they intrigue me a lot, as opposed to maybe some of the defensemen. But so I had I think I only ended up having 3 goalies on my list as well, which there weren't a lot of goalies. I think we were all kind of on the same 3 or 4 goalies as well. But Cass, for you, as you put together your list, what was the thing that jumped out for you?
Well, how important that core defense was to me. And yeah. it was tricky though, like trying to find the balance of the win in the future versus win today versus a little bit of the unknown, like not knowing who's going to, what the career trajectory is for some guys. It looks like it's really good, but we don't really know yet because they haven't been around long enough. That for me is, it was the interesting one, just trying to balance that out a little bit. And I mean, I just even looking when you sent these ones today, when you tabulated them, I was like, "Ooh, he could be."
Yeah,
in
I know.
some
I know.
serious
It's good. It
discussion
comes
with
together
some of these
nicely.
guys.
Yeah, it was good. Gager, what about you? And just to clarify for everybody who's listening to this as we begin this, basically for the next month, we'll be talking about this list and all the players on it. We tasked ourselves with putting together, if you're starting a franchise today, these are the 32 guys I would want in order from 1 to 32. So, Gager, for you, how did it come together on your side?
It was interesting because I tried to take in all factors with hockey teams. You know, if you look at a team in Canada, that you don't have to have a marketable player as much as, say, maybe a smaller market team in the US, and some of that superstar power and that kind of personality that might get some butts in the seats as well, some razzle dazzle. So that's another thing. And we look at these young guys, and I mean, we look at this list from 32 to 26. There's a few guys on there that have that get you out of the seats kind of player that I think is important in some smaller market cities where, oh my God, did you see, they're watching the highlights and I got to go see this guy play. So that kind of went into the factor of starting a franchise, not just like a city like Edmonton or Calgary, but maybe a smaller market that might need a little bit more swagger with some young players.
All right, so let's lay out the list for you, 32 through 26. Then we've got a few different storylines coming out of just this group. So it's Jason Robertson at 32, Matt Barzal at 31, Nick Suzuki at 30, Trevor Zegras at 29, Aaron Ekblad at 28, Quinn Hughes at 27, and Elias Pettersson of the Vancouver Canucks at 26. So I think the first thing that sort of stands out for me here, guys, is that group of Zegras, Suzuki, Barzal, and Robertson. So 29 through 32, four young guys, similar stages of their career, all grouped together here. Cass, let me throw this question at you from these four guys here. And, Zegras is the number one guy, from our consensus rankings, sitting at 29. If you were building a franchise around one of those four guys, and I think they all personally bring a little something different to the table, which one of those four guys do you like the most? Which one of those four guys do you think has the most upside? Like, here's the question. This is what I'll ask you. Which one of these four guys has the highest upside on this list over the next 3 or 4 years? Like, when we're doing this again next summer or the following summer, who do you think has the potential to get to the highest on it?
So that was Robertson, Suzuki, Hughes, and who else?
Barzal and Zegras.
Yeah, Barzal. Okay. Highest potential, probably Zegras. Now, I'm gonna say here, I didn't have any of those guys on my list. Zero. Here's my thing for Barzal.
You didn't have any of these guys on your list?
Player.
Not one of them?
Well,
that surprises me a little bit.
No, I had Ekblad. We'll talk about that. I'm upset with you guys on that.
But you had none of those young guys.
And
so Gager and I must have both had them. Yeah.
I had Hughes. And Hughes I had at 27th. So he landed right where I had him, slotted in there. Now Zegras I think has the biggest potential, but I left him off my list because I want to see him for another year or two.
Yeah,
that's for him. My hesitation with Zegras was the he's got the flash and he puts the butts in the seats, which is great. Is he going to be able to continue to do and to have the success? What's the long-term upside? Now, I think it could be there. It very well could be there, but I was a little hesitant, which is why he didn't make my list. For Barzal, as good as a player as he is, and he's a really good player. You guys telling me, would you pick? And I'm pretty sure you don't have him on your list. Very sure. Now, maybe you'll surprise me, you guys, with this. Now, I would say some mean things about you, but would you pick Ryan Nugent-Hopkins in your top 32?
Are you comparing Barzal to Nuge?
He's a 60-point guy.
And Nuge isn't even really a 60-point guy, though.
But Barzal's a 60-point guy.
You don't think he's got more potential to be better than 60?
How many years has he been putting up 60 points per year?
Well, he put up 80 his first year, right? So I wonder if there's
what's happened.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you think a lot of that has to do with the Islanders and the way that they play?
He's 25. Like it's not like he's 21 here. So he's entering or he's in his prime. You know what you're going to get. Maybe some of it has to do with the Islanders a little bit. Is he a really good player? Yes. Is he a fantastic two-way player? Yes. Would I want him on my team? Absolutely. Did I have him on my list?
If you were to surround him with other really good offensive players, I think he'd put up some pretty big numbers. Like nothing against Anders Lee and stuff, but
you have to start. I mean, if you're starting a franchise though, then now all of a sudden I got to make sure, like I have to ensure that those players are there. Like he I don't know. So
Barzal would be your least favorite of those four forwards.
Of those four forwards,
with Zegras, Suzuki, Barzal, and Robertson,
for starting a franchise, not in terms of how I like them playing or what I think of them as a player, but if I was starting a franchise, I'd go with of those four, forwards. I'd probably go with Zegras.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Gager, which one do you think has the highest upside from those four?
Oh, it's Robertson for sure.
You think so? Hey, he had a great year this year.
That guy's. We got to talk the cool bet of the over under. I would, if you had his goal total at 40, I would go over for next year. This guy shoots the puck. He's a pure goal scorer. It doesn't matter where the puck is. He gets it off and it's a sledgehammer for a shot. He's arguably he's probably the best player on Dallas besides Miro Heiskanen. Like he's unbelievable talent, this kid, and just like cool. Like seeing his interviews, he's just that California kid where you got to check him for a pulse. I look for him to score over 40 next year for sure. Out of those four guys, I got Robertson because scoring goals is at a premium, and he's going to get me at least 40 or more per year.
Do you think Robertson, so let's just take Robertson, for example, in this one. Do you think Robertson could be in the top 10 on a list like this within 2 or 3 years, Gager? Or does it not get that high for you?
I think after next year, we'd probably have him in.
You're that high on him, eh?
Oh God, yeah. He's phenomenal.
You were, I think, of all of our lists, I think you did have him the highest. So I guess that does make sense. So there you go. You have that group of four forwards to start it off: Zegras, Suzuki, Barzal, and Robertson. Zegras is the one that does intrigue me the most, just because he's filthy. But I understand where Cass is coming from. Like, does Zegras settle in? You know, like a Barzal, for example, and gives you 60 points, or can he drive it a little bit more? He put 61 up this year in 75 games in his first full season in the National Hockey League. So is this a guy who's settling in at 85 or maybe even beyond? So I think he's the one that intrigues me the most. I like Robertson as well. I see the argument on Barzal being out of this list too, Cass. So I like it. That's good. I like these groups in this discussion because that's what it's about. You're trying to dive in and dissect this a little bit. And if you're watching on the stream, if you want to chime in, feel free to do so in the comment section. We'll group the two Canucks guys together. So let's just go to Aaron Ekblad next because I know
you guys are crazy. And how does he end up at 28?
Well, I'll lay out my thought process on it, Cass, is that, and maybe I'm wrong on it, but let me just bring up his numbers here because he had a great year this year. Yeah, he's been relatively healthy for the last few years. I just always feel like I'm not sure if he's going to be there all the time as far as an availability. So maybe that's why I'm a little bit hesitant to have him a little bit higher up on the list. I will say there's a bunch of defensemen coming on this list, and Ekblad is slightly older than a lot of them, but he's 26. He's 26.
And he's a point per game defenseman.
And he just had this was his best year of his career, though. So is he this guy, or is he the guy that he has been the last few years?
Defenseman before this. He was a point per game defenseman before this.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was.
No, he wasn't. The closest he's got this year he was 57 and 61. Last year, 22 and 35. Before that, the closest he got was 41 and 67. Outside of that, he was 35 to 40. So is he this year, or is he what he's been prior to this year? That's why I had him where I had him, and I had him. Yes. One of us must not have even had him on the list, to be honest with you.
I don't think I did. Maybe.
Yeah, Gager might not have had him on the list. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
After that move that the Cooch made on him in the playoffs, I was like, he dropped for me. He lunged. He looked like a men's league defenseman.
Cash, you had a mid-teens, didn't you?
I had a mid-teens.
All right, so you're the pro Ekblad guy. So give us your case for Ekblad.
Well, okay, 26 years old, stable defenseman. If you look at all his fancy stats and you don't include this year, they're all good. If you look, whenever he's on the ice, the team is good. Team has success over and over and over again. He is a number one bona fide defenseman in the prime of his career. He's got 5-ish, 6-ish years that are good left, and then he's going to decline. But my thought is, over that time, you're going to be able to build a team, and over that many years, you can build a team around this guy, knowing that that cornerstone of your team is rock solid moving forward. I mean, he's a
So you view him as, let's say, he's 26, so between 26 and 31, you view him as a defenseman that you can build a Stanley Cup champion around.
You can build a Stanley Cup champion around. Yeah. Absolutely. 100%, which is where I have him higher on my list on that. So that's where I think you guys are crazy for having him.
Why was he not on your list?
Having him lower.
I think you touched on it, Dusty. First, the durability is one thing, and it's tough because we've had a big sample size. Like, he's been in the league, 8 years already? So just a little bit of injury prone. The fact that the Panthers haven't been able to make that next step with him yet. And after watching that playoff series where you're I've always kind of thought, okay, is this the year that Aaron Ekblad kind of comes along par with Victor Hedman, because they're, watching them both in the playoffs, Hedman was head and shoulders better than
different class.
Aaron Ekblad.
Yeah.
Different. So to me, that there's a benchmark there. And I know not everyone's Hedman, but I did look for Ekblad to establish himself as just the rock solid D-man. And I just didn't see that in that series. I know he had a good year point wise, but so did everyone on the Florida Panthers. And when it counts most, it seems like they've always fallen short. And that's why I left him off the list.
All right, so Aaron Ekblad, first real controversy on the list, coming in at 28, and then we get the two Vancouver Canucks here. Interesting, Pettersson coming in just ahead of Quinn Hughes, and there's other teams further on this list that have multiple players. I think there's one team that has at least 3 players on this list as well. But for where the Vancouver Canucks are right now, Cass, let's just play this game: Pettersson or Hughes. If you had to choose just one of them to build a franchise around, because they're back-to-back on our rankings. So Pettersson or Hughes, who would you choose between those two? Would you go with the flashy offensive forward or go with the flashy offensive defenseman? I mean, that's basically what it is.
Yeah, I think I'd go with Hughes. I had Hughes at 27. Pettersson didn't make my list. The reason, which is crazy to me, because 3 years ago, Pettersson would have been in the mid levels. Like, he would have been mid-teens for me 3 years ago. And just the past 2 years have really raised some doubts about his game and about his ability to grow and to continue to improve, where I was like, man, this guy's so slick. He's got so much upside, but he just hasn't found a way to keep playing at that level for Pettersson. So I think I take Hughes, because I look at between the two of them and I go, Hughes has got more, I'm almost more certain about what he's going to be able to do and what he's going to be able to bring. And he is that new age defenseman. Are there things he could do better? Yes. Did I think he should be in the top 10 of the list? No. Top 15 of the list? No. But, right in that spot, right around where he is, I think that's perfect for him. Like, where it's like, okay, if you're one of the later teams, he's a guy you can build an offense around. You can build a power play around him, which is, I think, where you'd start. You'd say, okay, we're going to try to be a team that draws penalties, works hard, creates a lot of offense in the power play. And Hughes is the guy that I'm building that around. More than Pettersson. I mean, he's the guy that's going to be carrying the puck up the ice. He's going to be the guy that's going to try to generate. I view him a little bit higher.
They both finished with exactly 68 points this year. And the Pettersson one's very interesting, because you are right about when he first burst onto the scene. I think you're right. He probably would have been in 10 to 15 range if we did this a couple years ago. And it's weird with him, because first year, 66 points in 71 games. Second year, 66 points in 68 games. Pretty nice. Third year, 21 points in 26 games. This year, he had 68 points in 80 games, but did have 32 goals in those 80 games this year. So it's like we're penalizing him because he hasn't taken that step yet, right? Like, he's very good, but can he be great? And I think because of that, I think I'm still very intrigued by an 85 to 90 point Elias Pettersson. So I think I'd probably take him ahead of Hughes. I think I might have had him a couple spots higher than Hughes, but both were in this area anyway. Gager, Your thoughts on
I didn't
Pedersen
even
or
have-
Hughes?
Oh, it's Pedersen all the way. Hughes, I didn't
Yeah.
even have on my list.
Okay.
He's
See, this is
he's
great.
a-
We got a
he's-
bunch of guys at the lower end that we don't have on the list.
he's a little offensive defenseman, right? I don't think you build your team around a guy that, let's face it, has struggled over the past few years to play on the defensive side of the puck. Yeah, sure, he's gonna score points, but man, he's a liability out there. I think last year he was just. I looked for him to take a next step. Maybe it was a bit, he's a young defenseman and there are some growing pains, and I know Pedersen's had some struggles to score too, but I just think the way that Pedersen plays and the offensive creativity, and the way that he can play on the other side of the puck is that's how I would want to build my team over a all around player. Hughes just seems too one-dimensional for me to start a franchise around.
Cass, do you think, like Vancouver, so they've got these top end talents. There were other Canucks. I think you guys each had a different Canuck on your lists, but different. Like Gager had somebody and you had somebody else, and these are the two that end up on the list. Do you think it's an issue for the Canucks and maybe why they haven't, built on what maybe we saw for them a couple years ago, Cass, because Pedersen and Hughes are similar type of players, like highly offensive guys, but, they're not going to go out and crash and bang or, that's what JT Miller kind of did. But they got two guys on this list. Why aren't they a little bit higher overall as a franchise? Is it because they're similar types of players?
Yeah, that might factor into it a little bit. I mean, Vancouver's kind of like an enigma to me. Like they're weird. It's a weird setup because here's what I'll go with. I don't think they have done a good job of building around their guys. So I don't think the rest of the team is built in a way that's going to allow those players to have the greatest amount of success. And I think some of that starts from the goaltending out, where they've had some issues goaltending. And I know, Demko.
What?
Just so you know, Demko was on Gager's list. Didn't make the overall list because neither of us had him on the list. So, Gager, if you want to chime in on Demko, this is your chance, man.
Yeah, Cass, come on. He's one of the
Gager loves
one of the
Demko.
only goalies in the league that you could build your franchise around. He's unbelievable. He's the only reason the Canucks went on that unreal spurt when they won 13, or when Dirty Bruce took over. He's a franchise goalie that from the old school where he can play 50, 55 games. I'd like him to play a little less or something, or 60. But man, are you kidding me? Like if you were to ask Oilers fans who they would rather have, if they could have a chance to duel Jack Campbell or Thatcher Demko, how many people would say? Everyone, it would be 100% Demko. If Demko's on the Oilers right now, that makes them an even better team. I think it's ridiculous that he's not on the list, Dusty. That's you guys.
Well, he's a good.
I know
he's a
weed's
good
legal
goalie.
right now, but come on.
I don't think he's a bad goalie, but I mean,
He's a difference maker.
Is he?
Yes.
Is he?
I'm somewhere probably in between both of you. I think he could be a difference maker. I'm just not sure he is yet.
Remember him in the bubble?
I know he was unreal in the bubble.
He was unreal. He's unreal.
And he's got a pretty decent save percentage. The last 2 years, he's gone back-to-back 915s, which I think you have to like.
On that team, that's amazing.
Yeah, on that team, that is pretty good. Yeah, no, that's good. All right, so there's one of the first spoilers. Demko is not higher on this list. And Cass, from a Canucks perspective, I think you had JT Miller right at the tail end of your list,
I am
didn't you?
at 32.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm at 32. I mean, heart and soul type of guy. Like that's if you're building a muck and grind type of team. And I figure if you're picking 32nd in this thing, and you're all those other guys are off the list, that's I think a decent place to start. So I had him right at the tail end of that. Looking back and even seeing this, I kind of go, I probably could have put Roberts in there. Like he may be a better fit ultimately than having JT Miller. But I just went with, okay, who are players that can put up some points, that play a style that's going to help you win games and help you win games in the playoffs. And I do think JT Miller fits that, which is where I'd build the roster around him more than I would Demko. So
It's funny. I had 4 of those players in that kind of range too.
These guys on this list right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
All right, so there we go. 26 through 32. Pedersen's 26. Quinn Hughes is 27. Ekblad 28. Ekblad was a good talking point here. Zegras 29. Suzuki 30. Barzal 31. And Jason Robertson 32. That is the first 7 names in the franchise 32. We will be back later in the week with at least 5 more. Maybe not more. I feel like we're going to have a lot of good debate as we work our way through the rest of this list, boys. So, yeah, fun list to go through, and we're just getting started, and we'll see where it goes from here, boys. I'll make notes. Ekblad, very controversial along the way. Cass doesn't like Barzal. Gager has a huge boner for Thatcher Demko. And what'd you say, Cass?
I like Barzal.
Yeah.
I just don't like him for
You
this.
don't like him that much. All right, that's going to do it for another episode of Two Guys and a Goalie, brought to you by Cool Bet. Hey, if you want to chime in, make sure you tweet at us with your franchise 32, or at least start like we did, 26 through 32. Our whole list is locked in. We're looking forward to breaking it down on the next episode of Two Guys and a Goalie, brought to you by Cool Bet. Stay cool, bet responsibly. Boys, we'll talk to you later in the week.
Can't wait.